What is up, everybody? It's Larry back with you, and today we're going to be talking about something that I've had in my possession for quite a while, and this is the Hollyland Mars 400S. The channel for a while, you've seen that I've already reviewed the Hollyland Mars 300. This is definitely a step above that. This is the set right here, transmitter and the receiver that look extremely similar when you just look at them like this. So just like to give you a quick overview, if you're not too familiar with these, you have a screen on the front that's going to give you information like battery, what channel you're on, things like that. You have some selector buttons down here. Same thing on the transmitter and the receiver. On the back, you can fit Sony batteries, so you can use these wirelessly, but there is also a power on the one side. The issue is that it only comes with one power cord. I talked about this in my 300 review. Same thing with the 400S, is it only comes with one power supply. I personally think that's a big mistake by Hollyland with these. I think they should come with two, just to make it a lot easier. But if you have one stationary, like on your camera, you can have power to that one. And then if you're monitoring wirelessly offset or off to the side, you could use a battery with that one. I actually use them both with batteries. Aside from that, you get, in the package, you get the 2 transmitter receiver. You actually get 5 antennas, so if you lose one, you're all set. You actually get a cold shoe mount, a few other little accessories. You get a USB Type-C to USB Type-A for if you need firmware updates, things like that. But just looking around, on the side of both of them, transmitter and receiver, you have your power hub at the bottom. You have your on-off switch, and right above that, which is like a very, it's not clicky, but it's tactile. Then on the other side, you have your Type-C connector on both. You have HDMI in and out, depending on what you're looking at. The receiver obviously has the out, transmitter has the in, and then this version here actually has SDI in and out as well. So that comes in handy with cameras like this, the C200 that has SDI. If you don't have SDI, you're not too worried about that, but it's a much more secure, stable fit. I like using STI more than HDMI, but I find myself using HDMI a lot because I use this with not only my C200, more than likely I'm ended up using it on my 5D Mark IV, which I'm filming with right now. So now we sort of took a look at these. Hollyland sent me, some information. I want to make sure I knock all this out so I don't leave anything on the table. There is some key features that they wanted me to point out. So just so you know, this isn't a sponsored review, but they did send this out to me for review, so big thanks to them for that. So I want to make sure I hit all the points that they want me to talk about, and then after that we'll talk about sort of how I've been using it, and we'll get into that more of a real world discussion. It has, like I said, SDI and HDMI interfaces. It has an iOS and Android app, which is really, really cool, but yet has one critical flaw, in my opinion, that we'll talk about in a few moments. It'll channel scan, so that's great. Low battery warning indicator. It has an OLED display screen, like we talked about. The 400 stands for 400 feet, so you're going to get 400 feet line of sight using this wireless monitoring system. So that's awesome. Now, if you put a wall into place or you have like hills or things like that, I personally have not used it stretching the 400 feet. I've seen some videos where you can actually get a little bit more than 400 feet depending on your line of sight and how clear of a day it is, things like that. But for what I use, I'm usually not too far away, maybe 100 feet at max, and I've had zero issue with transmission or anything like that. So there is a tiny slight bit of lag, and that comes with just the wireless system. It's not enough to really bother me too much because I'm only using this as reference. If you were maybe on some higher end budget shoots, yeah, that would probably be a problem for what I'm using it for, and I think what the normal person that purchases this type of product is going to be using, I think it's perfectly acceptable. Another thing that they wanted me to point out, which I should have when I was talking about it, is that, and you probably could hear it as they were hitting each other, but these are metal cases. That's a nice upgrade because, I mean, if you drop it, anything like that, you're going to be okay. So mounting it as well, you have a 1/4-20 mount at the bottom of both of them. And like I said, this one I have the cold shoe mount on it. So This one here is the one, this is the transmitter, and this is what I usually have on top of the C200, or like I said, my 5D Mark IV. And then I'll have either a very small HDMI cable when it comes to the 5D, or I have a very small SDI cable or an HDMI, either one when I'm working with the C200. So we talked about what it looks like, all the, sort of the features that Hollyland wanted me to talk to you guys about. So we've sort of got that part out of the way. Now the way that I use this, and obviously I'm not using it right now because I'm showing you guys the products, but I'll cut in some B-roll throughout this video so you guys can sort of see the setup that I have and how I have it. I'll show you guys a little bit with the lag and things like that. But really what I use it for is to really get wires and cables out of my life. So in the studio that I have here, I run everything through the ceiling. I have my studio lights mounted in the ceiling. I have my XLR cables from my microphones running through the ceiling. I have my XLR, I'm just trying a new setup now to where my microphone, as you can see, is right here in frame. All of my and if I wasn't using the Hollyland, if I'm using, like right now, I have all my HDMI cables running through the ceiling, but like I have power cables on the ground. A lot of times if I'm moving or have multiple cameras or I'm doing like a different shoot that isn't this frame here, then I have HDMI cables everywhere. So to clean that up, so the Hollyland Mars 400S gives you a cable-free setup when it comes to monitoring your videos. And like I said before, different scenarios for monitoring your videos would be, one, if you're shooting a video for someone, maybe you're doing more like a talking head, sort of like this style, but you have someone off to the side, maybe it's a producer or a client or something like that, and they can sort of see the frame, see how things are looking, and that's a nice thing for that. My personal reason for using it is the C200 has a very small monitor. The 5D Mark IV doesn't have a flip out monitor, so I need something to see my frame. Like right now I have a 19-inch monitor, camera side left, showing me the frame, and I can see that I'm in focus. I see the autofocus moving. I see my audio levels. I see all the information I need to. The biggest thing is I see that little red dot that says I'm recording. But I can see myself. I can see how I'm framed. I can see that I'm, in center. I can see that I'm not blown out. I can see how the lights look behind me. All that stuff is fantastic. But having all that stuff wirelessly is another level, because then all I'm worried about is the power cord going to the wall. So I have a very long power leads for everything. So I can take my monitor, which is on a rolling stand, and actually roll it over to here, roll it back there farther, move it off to the side, anywhere I want to, and have the freedom, as long as my power cord goes there, that I'm good. Now the power cord is a lot more stout and stable than an STI or an HDMI, so that gives me the freedom of not having to worry about pulling out an HDMI cable from a camera, or yanking on an STI, or knocking over my camera when I'm trying to move a monitor and it gets caught on something, anything like that. So to me, the biggest benefit for this is that freedom of being tetherless to your camera. The safety and the security that feels, to not have to worry about a cable pulling out from your camera or knocking something over, is well worth the money, in my humble opinion. If you want to use this, like I said, in a different type of scenario, you could have this monitor could be set 400 feet away, and someone could be looking at something and making sure you're getting the proper shot. Overall, it's fantastic. Now, something that really takes the 400S to the next level, and I use that term a lot when I talk about different technologies, because it is truly the next level, and that is the iOS or Android app. Now I use this with my iPad, so you can pull up a waveform, a histogram, you can check your focus, zebra, check your frame, you can magnify, you can do false color. I mean, there's just so much stuff you can do throughout. You can actually take a screenshot, you can do a screen recording. So if you want to do maybe a screenshot of your composition or everything and send that out to somebody who's not on set, you could quickly do that. So now this is essentially getting rid of the receiver. So really, if you have the transmitter on top of your DSLR camera like I have now, or your C200, you can have somebody just with an iPad or their phone off to the side. So you don't even need, like I said before, about the power and the rolling stand and all that stuff. You have an iPad. I have the iPad Pro 12.9. That's usually what I'll use if I'm going to use the app. Obviously right now I'm using my stand because it just makes more sense for this setup. You can also change the channels in there. You can do you can change the quality if you're having a little bit of issues with that, from HD to SD. You can add a watermark if you want, in case you want to get into that thing. I'm not a big fan of watermarks no matter what. I mean, the app is super functional. I've never used it on Android, so I can't speak to that. In my experience, Android apps usually lack a little bit behind iOS. I know I'm triggering every Android fanboy right now, but that's just reality. Biggest issue is that the app does not save your device, right? So every time you shut it off and you go back, even if it's 5 minutes later and you shut the app off, you turn off your 400S, and your camera, maybe for like a 5-minute break or to regroup or set up a new shot. When you turn it back on, you have to go through and then you have to scan on the back of the transmitter the small QR code, which I don't know if you can really make out right now, but right there, this small QR code you have to scan every single time. And what I find difficult is when I have this mounted on the camera already, and the camera is always behind the lighting, behind everything, and it's always in a dark area. Your camera doesn't pick up the QR code very well, and you open up the Mars app, it says, do you want to connect? It scans it right there, boom, you're right in. But to have to do that every single time, in my opinion, is an issue, and I hope that's something they can update in either the app or the firmware. I don't know which side of it would need. I'm assuming it may be a limitation to the iOS side. Maybe iOS doesn't let you save that, but I don't know, because I can save like my camera to my Canon app on my iOS device and never really have this kind of issue. So I'm hoping Hollyland can figure something out with that, because aside from that, the app is fantastic. Like I said, it gets rid of, if you already have your phone, you already have a tablet, you have something that you can get this app on, you don't need to spend money on an external monitor or like I said, a stand for your monitor, or you don't have to have a power cable running all over. It gives you even more of a wireless, clean setup, because then your setup is essentially your camera, your transmitter, and then whatever connection you use, SDI or HDMI, from your camera to your Mars 400S. Game changer. So really, that's going to be it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know by hitting the thumbs up down below. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. That's down below as well. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think about the 400S. Do you guys use wireless transmitters? How do you guys like them? If you're using the 400S, what do you guys think about the app issue? That's my biggest issue with it. There's a little bit of lag, things like that when you're talking about wirelessly transmitting, but that's not an issue for me. I can deal with that for what I do. But when it comes to the app and having to rescan it every single time, to me, it's just a pain in the butt. So hopefully, like I said, they can fix that. If they do, I'll leave a comment down below and I'll pin it to the top, letting you guys know, or I'll change the description, letting you guys know that they have fixed this. And I hope that they do. Anyways, that's going to be it. If you guys have any questions about this, please leave it down in the comment section. I'll hit you guys back. I'll leave a link where you guys can check this out for yourself. Also, just because I don't think I mentioned it before, but the price of this is around $650. You can find it a little bit cheaper in different sites. So I'll leave a couple links down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. But again, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.